Today.
No worries. That's completely fine. I completely remembered.
Well, mate, it's so exciting that you guys are able to be back out there on the road after the last 12 months. How has the last 12 months felt for you guys with new music coming out and not being able to tour?
Yeah, well, I think funnily enough, when the first show we had to cancel was going to Brisbane for Unleash the Elephant Festival, which was meant to be like playing with She Had, and we were actually on like just right before She Had on that. We were so keen, and I remember when that first got cancelled, like I was so upset. But then in the same day, I was like, well, I think this is going to be a while, so I think the next day we went into a studio and just recorded about 4 live sets to just put on YouTube because we were just planning for everything, and I didn't really want to not release music.
Yep.
So yeah, we just did. I was like, how do we tour without touring? So it was okay. I guess we tour on YouTube now.
Yeah. So I've spoken to like some of the bigger acts, and they kind of always say, oh, it was great to have a year off touring. It meant that we could recharge the batteries and work on new music. But of course, they get to live off the millions of albums that they've already sold. For you guys, that's not such a thing that you can do. So how tough was it financially for you guys over the last 12 months?
Yeah, well, I think like obviously for us it's more that we still need to tour to find more people. It's almost like the only way to market the record besides, what little we can do online. So our best thing is always going to be to do a live show.
Yeah.
Financially, I guess it wasn't bad. Like we actually did pretty well on merch, and I think a lot of people were really supportive. We didn't ever find a new way of coming up with like income or revenue streams. We all just kept going, but yeah, like it seemed good. I mean, we had to spend more on cameras and editing software to put out new videos and content. I guess that was the other thing.
Yeah. And I know the lockdowns were very different in Brisbane to what they were here in Melbourne. Were you guys able to get together and record at other times during the pandemic as well?
Well, yeah. So we made like a little space during the lockdown, which was just like able to record some acoustic stuff and be like run by one person. So we in fact started like a little show where we'd have other bands come in and we'd record them and put them out online.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the way we kind of kept going. Sam and I, the guitarist, worked together, so we just kept writing during that time. But in our office, in our place of work, I think that's okay. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. So your creative juices were still flowing? Like you found that you were still able to be creative and actually write new material at the same time?
Yeah, I kind of felt like, you use all different things. I mean, a lot of the music, it comes from hardship anyway, so kind of let us tap in that little emo side, I guess.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's still felt okay.
Yeah, and how do you feel now about being able to get out there and do shows again? That must have been such a relief when you walked out onto the stage for the first time to do a show after all of this lockdown stuff.
Yeah, so being Sydney-based, the first show we got was at Frankie's Pizza when they were first allowed to have bands back open, but it had to be to a seated audience. I remember being pretty like confused, like how this is going to go over to a seated audience, and then once we got there, it was like, this is better than nothing. It's actually awesome because the energy was just so good in the room.
Yeah. And now you've got these Young Henry shows. Tell us a little bit about these shows and how important it is to you guys to do these shows.
Well, all the bands on that lineup in Brisbane I actually know or like, so that's really cool. Before, like, one of our first shows, I think, actually our first show that we ever played as FANGZ, I was wearing a Void shirt on stage because I liked them. Like, they were one of my favourite bands. And I've always wanted to play with them, and now we get to. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's just cool to see Young Henry's doing that and, putting on all these shows and getting a whole bunch of bands together.
Yeah. Does that add to the atmosphere for you guys when you know the other bands that are on the bill? Like, does it just make it easier backstage and things like that?
Oh, totally. I think I think you can feel it in the room when bands are friends. Like, if you're friends with the supports, even the crowd feels like they're in on the party altogether.
Yeah. Now, I was talking to a friend down here who runs a venue down here in Melbourne, and he said that he's still a little bit nervous about organising shows because he doesn't want to have to go through the whole rigmarole of giving back tickets and stuff like that if the show gets cancelled. Do you guys still have that fear in the back of your mind that we've accepted this show, but we never know what's going to happen with a lockdown or something?
Well, on this tour, we've had to cancel. Like, one show has been cancelled due to Brisbane when Queensland went back into lockdown, and it was a really good way to have a reality check and remember we're not completely out of this. Anything can change within a second, but we are really lucky to be living on an island, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I know that Melbourne bands love going to Brisbane to play. Tell us a little bit about how it feels for you as a Sydney band going to Brisbane to play.
How do I say that I like playing Brisbane more than every time we go to Brisbane, it's actually been great. We've never had a room empty there, and I think the kids are just a bit wilder than everywhere else, to be honest.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. Do you find that the crowds do change from city to city?
Oh, totally. Well, I mean, in Sydney, obviously, we know a lot of people, and you feel like you're playing a lot more to friends. Everywhere else, we had a really crazy time in Wollongong and Canberra this tour. Like, both of them, Canberra was probably holds the record for most stage dives and crowd surfing by a crowd. Like, yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. Like, every time I turn around, there's another kid just jumping off of that, like, the barrier next to me. So it was pretty good.
Yeah. Now, I'm kind of scared to ask this because I'm a Melbourne boy, but what are Melbourne crowds like?
Melbourne crowds? Okay, let's see. No, Melbourne crowds are cool, you know, like, a bit more subdued than your Brisbane crowd, but always, you know, a lot better at drinking than most, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like, after the show, Melbourne can always seem to put it away and take you from another bar to another bar to another bar. That's always welcomed.
Yep, definitely. So, mate, tell us a little bit about what you've got planned for the crowds in Brisbane. Like, you guys have got some new material out there. So what have you got planned for your set up in Brisbane?
So we will actually be playing songs we haven't played before at all to anyone in Brisbane. So that's pretty cool. Testing a new song before we release it. And other than that, just the usual 4 guys in tracksuits smashing beers on their heads. Young Henrys, of course.
So how does that feel when you're playing a new track live? Like, that to me, like, I do stand-up comedy and I always get nervous when I'm going out to do a new show. But how do you feel about going out and doing a new song? Like, do you get nervous before you do a new song live the first time, or do you get more excited?
Me personally, always nervous because I don't practice as much as I should, but luckily the others know what they're doing. And I think my favourite part is just watching people sing the words to songs that even I don't know the words to yet. So that's my favourite.
Yeah. So what is that part that makes you nervous? Is it like not knowing how the audience are going to receive the song? Because that would be my worst fear as a musician, walking out on stage and playing a new track and getting no reaction from our fans. Is that something that's in the back of your mind?
Oh, 100%. It's like, wow, I'm glad we just spent heaps of money recording that track because it went down like a lead balloon.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. So tell us about these new tracks. What kind of things have been inspiring you guys, and what can we expect from these new tracks?
The new tracks, I guess it's still punk rock. A lot more time put into like lyrical content, and I think we were reflecting a lot on our life choices at the time. So, I don't know, I think we've tried to keep them upbeat, but if you listen close enough, you can hear the slow mental demise of everyone in the band.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've been playing Self-Medicate on our show, and I know that it's got a lot of great feedback from our listeners, and we've been getting lots of requests for it. Is that kind of the same, what we can expect from this new material is more like Self-Medicate?
I would say Self-Medicate is bit heavier on the guitar side than the rest of it. But yeah, I'd say pretty similar. A lot more singing and hooky choruses than before.
Yeah. Now, aside from the Young Henry shows, what have you guys got planned for the rest of the year? Like, can we expect an EP from you guys, an album, or will you just be dropping a few more singles this year?
Yeah, well, we'll finish off this tour, so we still have, it'll be Brisbane, Sunshine Coast, Blue Mountains, Katoomba, and Melbourne next week. And then after that, not that anyone knows, but there will definitely be a new single in June that I should have maybe not said, but yeah.
Yeah.
New single in June.
Awesome.
And then the EP before the end of the year, for sure.
Cool. So has the EP already been recorded, or have you guys got to head back into the studio at some stage?
The EP is fully done, and it takes all of our power when we're drunk not to just show everyone.
Yeah. That must be a really frustrating time, like when you've got everything recorded and done, but you can't release it out to the fans. How do you sit on that music and not want to show everybody?
I just show my wife 3 times a day, and she just tells me she's over it. So that normally helps.
Yeah. And what about wider touring? Like, can we expect that perhaps you guys might head down to places like Melbourne later in the year as well, once we see what's going to happen?
Yeah, so we're actually in Melbourne next weekend.
Yeah.
Supporting Red Hook. But then, other than that, yeah, I think the next few tours, we even have a regional tour in the works right now. So our plan is to go everywhere that we can by the end of the year, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, I grew up in a country town, so I know that regional shows can get pretty wild. I know the town that I grew up in, apparently the Living End still lists that as the scariest show that they've ever done. What's it like playing regional cities?
Well, we haven't really done it, and if it wasn't for COVID, like, we were planning to go to Japan before everything was cancelled. We had a tour booked there, and just re-looking at this year, I was like, well, let's just play everywhere we can in Australia, because that's what we can do right now, and we've never even, like, really thought about it or done it. So we don't know yet. We know what it's like to play in all the cities, but it'd be great to see what it's like to do a regional tour.
Yeah, that must have been pretty disappointing about not being able to go to Japan, but not only that, but also I'm in the same boat with work. I'm supposed to travel for work, and I've been told that I probably won't get back to Asia until 2024. Does that, like, make you guys more determined to want to go, or do you just kind of, like, sit back and go, well, it'll happen one day?
Yeah, I think if it's taught us anything, it's like all the plans we had, it's like you just have to adapt, and I guess that's what we're trying to do, adapting. I started looking at New Zealand bands the other day. I'm like, if they're going to open that up, I'm even keen to go there. I just want to go everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. Well, mate, I guess to wrap up, what would you like to say to all of your fans out there that are thinking about heading along to check you guys out in Brisbane?
If you come, we will give you... We'll all be COVID tested. We'll give you a hug and we'll have a beer together, and it'll be worth it, even if the show isn't that great. I mean, what? Yeah, that'll do.
Mate, I'm sure the show is going to be absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much for chatting to us today.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Not a problem, mate. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.